There seems to be more riding on St. George and his dragon than you think. Catholic tradition has him as a saint, which would mean that he actually existed. Otherwise, he would just be, well, George. There's a lot of weight for his existence, even to the point of him being the patron saint of England, although I don't think anybody checked that he isn't English. We need to sort the fact from the fiction, along with my new tool to finding truth in fairy stories. If you haven't been here before, my name's Craig. I explore myths of the Bible, working out facts from the fiction, making sense of the confusing, so hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future biblical myth busting. The legend of St. George killing a dragon surely is just that, legend. Some use St. George as proof that dragons and dinosaurs are the same thing, and this would confirm in some way that evolution wasn't billions of years old and was in fact confirming creation as in the Bible, and that things are more likely to be thousands of years old. Also, that dinosaurs existed alongside man. So want this to be true. There is nothing more heroic than killing a dragon. Oh, instead of Tiger King, we could have Dragon King. Although thinking about that would not be good for anyone concerned, let alone the dragons. There are two main stories about St. George. So let's go through the first together and put a comment below if you think it's true or not, just from the story itself. There was a fierce dragon that was causing panic at the city of Selene, Libya. To stop the dragon from killing everyone, the king and his people gave 2 sheep each day for the dragon to eat. But when the sheep were not enough, or they ran out of them, they were forced to sacrifice people by taking lots. Whomever drew the short straw ended up as lunch. This seems to be the only way forward until one day the lot fell on the king's daughter. This was where St. George found his damsel in distress. He then proceeded to rescue her by injuring the dragon, and while it was down, had the princess take the rope that was around her waist and to tie it around the dragon's neck. They brought the injured dragon before the king and the people. St. George then slayed the dragon with his sword in front of everyone. The king was so grateful that he offered him treasures and anything he wanted. But St. George refused and said that all he wanted was everyone to worship God. I'm a little bit ashamed to say that the first time I read this, I thought I had found a truth in a fairy story too. I thought surely this has elements of truth, as St. George didn't ask for the princess's hand in marriage, he just asked for everyone to serve God. Like that's the only issue in the whole story. The other big issue with this story is that it wasn't till the 11th century that this story arose, which brings us to the second story. George's father had died for his faith when he was 14 in Greece. His mother took him to her homeland at Syria, Palestina. A few years later, his mother died. George then travelled to the capital city of Nicomedia and joined the Roman army. During this time, he was persecuted for his faith and dragged through the streets in front of everyone, and was finally executed by decapitation before the Nicomedia city wall on the 23rd of April 303 AD. A witness of his suffering was the Empress Alexandra of Rome, and from his suffering she became a Christian herself. Later, she was also killed for her faith. The second story still seems to have embellishments that seem to have been added over time, and there are even different versions of this story depending on where it's told. The date coincides with the persecutions of Christians among the professional Roman soldiers at the same time, 303 AD, by the Roman Emperor Diocletian, and this is undisputed. The story has history going back to the 4th century, and would give more credibility that this actually happened in some way or form. This is what gives him his sainthood. not slaying a dragon. The fact that St. George and the dragon hadn't been told before the 11th century doesn't give much weight to this story being true. Also, did you know that during the Crusades, which was around 1100 and plus, which is around the same time as St. George appeared to them on the battlefield as an apparition, helping them secure battles and giving the battle cry of St. George? All this would have perpetuated the dragon myth. So celebrate St. George for sticking to his faith no matter what, just not about killing a dragon. Go do something awesome for God. Catch you in the next one.